Now, let's take this step by step. There are thousands of different project management tools, templates that you could use. And it all depends on the scale of your project. And you, as the project manager of your project, you would decide, depending on its scale, the level of project management you need. So the level of the level of planning, the level of which type of templates you would need to what detail. And it all depends on the scale of project. So how big is it? How many people is it serving? How much money is being funneled into it? How many stakeholders are there? How many partners are involved? How complex is the project? Will all depend. The tools that I'm showing you now are sort of a very basic level, a standard project, what you would expect to have. But again, if you're talking about doing a book club for 4 or 5 people, there are certain things that you're just not going to need. And so you would use your initiative in that case and just use the tools which are most useful. So let's start with initiate the project. This is the first stage in the life cycle. And when I think about this stage, I think about Stephen Covey, who wrote the book 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of those habits he talks about is beginning with the end in mind. This is about having understanding of, by the end of this project, whatever it is, by the end of this workshop, by the end of this event, by the end of this book club meetup, or whatever it is that you're doing, by the end of this, charity fundraising event, what is it that you want to have walked away from that having achieved? What is the end result that you have in mind? It's essentially the vision. It outlines the top level strategy of the project before you go into intensive planning to set the vision direction, to make sure that you are streamlined in your approach, that you are staying on target and you know what that target is. And it gets everyone on the same page from the outset. And one of the tools that we use in this stage is the project canvas. And we use a project canvas to clearly define the project, to have a complete overview of a project. It keeps you focused and allows others to understand what is being asked of them. And as we work through each tool, have a go using a project, whether it's a fake project or a project that you've worked on before and it's already happened, or something that you might be working on in the future. And I'll talk you through using an example of my recent workshop that I delivered supporting mothers, and hopefully that will give you a bit more color to some of the explanation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a project canvas here for the project name. This is the project canvas that you would create, and I've inputted an example here so we can go through this example. So the project name is Mums and More Coaching Series. So it's a series of workshops, but I'm using the project management tools on the first pilot workshop, which is workshop 1, Create Your Career Map. So the purpose here is, what is the intent of this project? Why are we doing this project? It sets out the why behind why this is important to do. What is it that makes this relevant to you or your audience or your service users or whoever it is that you are hoping to impact? So the purpose of these workshops: women experience a 6% pay gap, and after having children, 32% of women drop off at management level, taking more than 10 years for their careers to recover. But 98% of mothers do want to work. So the Mums and More series is a workshop series aiming to rebuild the confidence of mothers in Bromley and bordering boroughs, supporting them to explore work opportunities that work for them and their new commitments. That's the purpose. That's the why. Often there'll be some kind of statistic, some drastic statistic that illustrates the purpose of what you're doing. Let's move on to the milestones. I think makes sense. It doesn't matter what order you do this in. There's no particular order. If you are working as part of a team, whether it's a volunteer group or a team of employees, it might be a good idea to get everyone in a room, but you can do this just as well by yourself if it is just you delivering something. It does sometimes help to have somebody sort of involved to bounce ideas off of, or to look at any gaps, just because, you know, more minds create more ideas. So in terms of the milestones, these are some of the key things. So when will the project start and when will it finish? What are the key milestones? So what are the key things you're looking to achieve, and when do you want them to occur? How can the milestones be measured? So I've put here to deliver the event in 8 weeks by Thursday, 27th of April, which is already gone. It was to manage a budget of £100. It was also to attain £100 worth of income revenue. So this wasn't the idea of this wasn't to make profit. It was to test an idea. It was to pilot something that would then go on to, we would then go on to propose some funding for. We wanted to gain local news coverage, to attain testimonials, photos and evidence to use for a funding bid, and to provide promotional coverage for venue host. You could also add in how the milestones can be measured. It was quite obvious to me that, you know, the date is immeasurable. We've got budget and how much income revenue, which would be how we would measure that. To gain local news coverage, we didn't specify any amount, but, you know, I'd probably say at least one news cover, which we did get. So you would add in there some measurable sort of things that you would know that you were successful. Then I think it's worth us looking at success criteria. So success criteria is, what do we need to achieve in order for the project to be successful? How can the success criteria be measured? So for us, we successfully get at least 5 participants for the pilot workshop. That was a success criteria. At least 2 participants provide a raving fan testimonial, so positive testimonials. Content created, you know, things like PowerPoint and workshops are prepared on time before the workshop. The venue host is satisfied by the exposure that they got to cover the value of the free venue. So I wouldn't get too caught up on what's a milestone or what's success criteria. Essentially, you're just outlining what it is that you want to achieve. If you've walked away from that workshop or that event or that fundraiser, what would you have wanted to achieve that you don't already have now? And essentially just get that down. So then in the same way, the outcome is, what is the end of result? So is it a book? Is it a website? Is it an event? So for us, it was an event, or I could have called it a workshop, in a local venue to deliver the workshop content and host some networking. But for you, it might be the delivery of a book or an app or whatever that might be. So that's the outcome here. So let's look at the scope. So the scope, this is about really defining exactly what it is you are doing and what you are not. So we've said it's a workshop, but what kind of workshop is it? Is it a 3-day workshop? Is it a workshop for 30 people? Is it in person? Is it virtual? And this is the space where you define those things. So what is in scope and what is out of scope? So in scope, this is a 2-hour workshop. It's local, in-person event. Maximum is 10 participants. Sign up is before via Eventbrite. There'll be workshops and an accountability WhatsApp group available, and we'll have some cookies and bottles of sparkling drinks. It is just as important to identify what is out of scope, especially when there are other people involved. And even more so if there are any partners or funders involved, so that they are very clear from the outset what it is that you are setting out to achieve. So out of scope for me, there's not going to be one-on-one coaching, there's no formal catering, there's no alcohol, there's no marketing that's going to happen outside of Bromley other than, you know, social media reach, and there's going to be no PowerPoint. So that's what we want to do when we're looking at the scope. The next section I want to show you here is this big section in the middle. This, you can create a mind map, you can draw, you can just scribble things all over the place. The idea is writing down all the activities that need to be executed in order to reach some of these milestones, this success criteria, and to deliver the scope of what you're doing. So things like, this is not an exhaustive list, I could go on and on and on, but this is an example. So, you know, get use of a free venue to host the workshop. So I need to find the venue. I need to create an A4 page marketing copy for the website and Eventbrite page. I need to organize who will get the cookies and drinks with the venue and host. I need to create a marketing plan. I need to look for local coverage opportunities for the workshop. I need to create the content, including all the printed worksheets. I need to print the worksheets. I need to set up the post-workshop. So post-workshop, I need to set up the accountability WhatsApp group. And I could go on and on and on with all of the things that need to happen. So then moving down to the teams, this is about defining who is working on this project, who the team members are, what are their roles. So for this particular project, it was purely me, and I was doing the content, the facilitating, the marketing, the sales and the admin, and then the venue who did the setup, was sourcing the catering, and what they managed all the health and safety. Then we look at stakeholders. This is going to be an important part for another tool that we're going to look at in a moment. So this is about identifying who your stakeholders are. So stakeholders are essentially anybody who has influence or interest in your project. And you will have to manage each of those groups or individuals to some extent. So in this project, I was the organizer. There's the participants, there's the 10 participants, there's the venue, there's future potential participants who might hear about the event. There are future potential funders that we will also go out and seek following the event. And there are also other potential local venues that we could use for the workshops. There might be many more for you. There might be catering staff, there might be volunteers, there might be funders, there might be investors, there might be partners, there might be a board, there could be staff, there could be operations staff or marketing staff. Whoever is interested or influences the project in any way is a stakeholder. Some other ways, and some other ways to think about stakeholders as well is through a story. So a friend of mine was working on a construction project that was happening near a nature reserve, and so there you can imagine the stakeholder group for that includes those who are petitioning against the project happening, who were petitioning against you know, lots and lots of sort of construction around that area. They would be a stakeholder. So remember, stakeholders aren't only people who have a positive interest or influence on the project. They may also be challenging the project. They are still a stakeholder and somebody or a group you will need to manage. Then these are the users. So this is just separating who are the benefactors or the beneficiaries of your project, who will benefit from the outcome of the project. So mainly for me, it was the participants who are mothers who are either rethinking their careers, returning to work after time off, feeling burnt out in their current role, or want to explore a different approach to work. So it now moves us on to resources. So what resources do you need in the project, whether it's physical, financial, human? So for us, the workshop was my time, which I had to allocate in my calendar. We needed £100 for promotions and food. I needed the content, my knowledge. We needed the worksheets. And the venue, there was obviously an opportunity cost for them for using the venue. for free, time and the space. For you, it could be stationery, it could be construction materials, it could be, you know, if you're refitting the kitchen, which is, you know, a great example of a project, that would be all the materials, it would be the kitchen units, it would be the flooring, it would be the, you know, the paint. Then we move on to constraints. So what are the known limitations of the project? Again, is it physical, financial, human? So for us, the constraint, we only had £100 budget. We were very limited with space options. We needed that for free. Lack of time on my side. I have a young, a 1-year-old, so time is of the essence. Lack of marketing experience personally, so there was that constraint for me. And it was a pilot event, so no one knew about this side of the business yet. And then risks. So similar to constraints, but slightly different. This is about what are the risks that may occur during the project. So, you know, it could be reputational, it could be environmental, it could be physical. So if there's any sort of heavy lifting, anything like that that people are going to be doing, you need to think about those risks. So for us, it was mainly reputation, if it's sort of ineffective for the participants, or our social media messaging isn't quite right. Mainly ego and confidence if no one turns up. For me, because this was a pilot, there was nothing riding on it. This wasn't about making money. This was about testing this idea, and wasted opportunity costs for both me and venue. So the time put into this may not be worth it in terms of opportunity costs. So hopefully that gives you a flavor of how to complete the project canvas. The idea is that it's really quick fire. It just gets you brainstorming on some of the really important elements that you should be thinking about. Now have a go at the project canvas using your chosen practice project. Once you've completed as much as you can, move on to the next video. But at this stage, don't worry if you haven't completed it fully, or if you get stuck, or if you get confused. Just have a go and move on. This is just an opportunity to practice and have a go. And I'll catch you soon.